Welcome to Geopod, where we address real-world events through the lens of geospatial analysis. I'm Andrew Patterson, and around the table we got some great people who are going to chat with us. Let's actually see who we have here. Who are you, sir?
I'm Bhargav.
Yeah, and what do you do at this institution?
At this institution, I'm a student.
Okay.
I'm Asad Khawaja. I'm also a student.
Hey, I'm Bilal. I'm the president of our society that we have created in order to do this podcast. We call ourselves Coppell Geographic Society, and we focus on trying to apply the concepts we learned in a class called AP Human Geography, where we discussed problems with population, with geography, with different issues around the world, and we decided to take an initiative and try to address these problems in our community and the world around us. So we started by trying to raise awareness with this podcast.
And I'm Nihar, the treasurer of this organization.
So I'm Andrew Patterson. I teach AP Human Geography, and this club was founded because we definitely want to know about geography, but we want to go beyond that. We want to address the real-world issues, and part of that is starting a discussion here on our show today. So what's going on? What are we talking about today, Bilal?
Today we want to just start briefly for our introduction to talk about something current that's happening in the Bahamas and parts of America. I'm sure most of you have heard of the recent tragedy of Hurricane Joaquin. Bhargav, do you want to just introduce what that is for us?
Yeah, so Hurricane Joaquin is a Category 4 storm that's been passing over the Bahamas this weekend. So for those of you who don't know, a Category 4 storm means usually the winds are at 130 to 156 miles per hour, and it usually means that there's a high risk of injury or death, and poorly constructed homes are more likely to collapse as a result of this. So it's been an issue this weekend. It's passed over the Bahamas. It caused damage with reports of rainfall ranging from 10 to 20 inches, and it's began to subside, but its stagnancy means it's causing damage here in the mainland U.S.
And a lot of times with these hurricanes, not only is there destruction, not only are homes destroyed, but things go missing. You know, when Hurricane Katrina happened, it was a tragedy for the whole America. People lost their lives. And recently on the news, there's been a lot of talks about a certain ship. You want to talk about that, Asad?
Yes. So, in the Atlantic Ocean, a ship known as El Faro, containing 33 people and 28 Americans, went missing as the storm passed through the area. It was believed to lost contact around 7:30 a.m. local time. Hurricane hunters tried to go look for the ship, but they couldn't find it. However, as the hurricane has passed through and the area is now more clean, a lifesaver from the El Faro ship has been discovered 75 miles northeast of the last known position. And soon later on, around the past few days, they have discovered more items such as cargo, styrofoam, and wood, and also an oil sheen that was known in the area. This has all been discovered by the Coast Guard, and more information has come saying that a body has been recovered by the Air Force and the Navy, who've been searching through this entire area of more than 70,000 square miles.
So originally the reports show that there were 33 people on board the ship and only one person has been found?
Yes.
That's a tragedy.
Well, I mean, what's the major concern for us as we watch this storm going up the eastern seaboard?
Well, the issues that we have right now is that the storm is centered around the Bahamas right now, and parts of Bermuda have also been affected. But recently, there has been a lot of reports of the hurricane sort of touching the east coast of the United States, and especially in one state in particular. Nihar, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so South Carolina in particular has been suffering major damage due to flooding. Charleston in particular has had the worst rain in 1,000 years history. It has had over 11.5 inches of rain, and there's been reports of over 5 people killed. And also, state officials are concerned that the water in South Carolina has been contaminated with bacteria.
You know, these reports show, when you look at the reports from the Bahamas, especially there's been a maximum amount of flooding in Long Island. There have been reports that the water has gone above window level, which, that could mean a one-story house that might not be super significant, but I've seen on the news recently, atrocious water levels going all the way past 2 stories. And the issue we have, especially what's happening in South Carolina, is when the storm passes, the water will still be there. It'll take some time for the water to clear. And like what Nihar was talking about, state officials have reported that the water could be contaminated with bacteria, and when there are little kids around and anybody in particular who the water gets near them, it goes into their mouth, it goes into their filtering system, it just causes a huge mess.
Yeah, you think about it being water, and we're all used to going to the lake or swimming in a pool, but people who are in these situations don't realize that you're right. This bacteria could be extremely contaminated, and so many other hazards could be just underneath the surface that they're not seeing. So really, the entire situation with this flooding is much more dangerous than we see just looking at a lot of water and what that can do.
That's true. The hurricane right now, although reports have said that it's prevalent in the East Coast, but it's fading over time. The biggest issue with this hurricane compared to other hurricanes we've seen in the past, like Hurricane Sandy and Hurricane Katrina, is that this hurricane isn't moving much. Although it has hit our East Coast, unfortunately, South Carolina specifically, it's caused the most amount of damage in Bahamas. And that's where its epicenter is, and it's just remaining there, and it's causing a huge amount of damage. And the issue is we don't know how long the storm's going to last there. It's going to take some time before people can start sending help, because as long as the storm remains, there's little we can do in the United States to go help the people out there.
I remember watching this thing come in, and reports a few days ago were that it'd probably be hitting eastern seaboard north of the Carolinas by Sunday or Monday, and it's just slowed down so much. What's the reasoning for why it's going so slow? Do we have any thoughts on that? Is that related to the intensity of the storm, or
no, it's not related.
So velocity of travel is not related to the intensity of the storm?
Hurricanes will go fast, they can go slow. It just depends on the storm.
Yeah, it's a Category 4 storm, which does mean it has very high winds, but that doesn't control how it's moving. That just shows how much wind it is in a particular area. And so what I want to do to sort of wrap things up, I want to open this up to a bigger discussion question that I think is something that we all can have our thoughts on. It's, should Americans expect their government to take care of them in times of a natural disaster such as a hurricane or an earthquake, or are they better off depending on the charity of individuals? Does anyone have any thoughts on this? Bhargav, do you want to talk about that?
So I think Americans should expect their government to take better care of them, because it is the federal government's place to aid the citizens of the state governments and aid the state governments in assisting the population, assisting the damage control. And it's going to cost a lot of money, I'm sure, but it's going to be better because there's a lot of money that's already going to be lost as a result of the damage, especially on weaker homes, which have been most susceptible to this. And you're already going to see signs of this with the National Guard already being presently deployed, and many National Guardsmen on standby, prepared to assess the situation and act accordingly. So you're already seeing the government take necessary action. So you can expect the government to aid in times of disaster, and you should expect on this more than the charity of individuals.
The most particular question, though, is, when this hurricane started, as we all know, it's been centered around the Bahamas, and it only recently started affecting South Carolina, and that's why there's been major flooding. And it seems like the United States really took the most action once it hit our own nation. So do you think that when times of disaster have happened, I know that we've, of course, helped Haiti and other places in the past, but do you think that, when this event started in the Bahamas, the United States should have had more action to help Bahamas, or do you think they made the right choice until it really hit the East Coast to start helping out?
So if America were to help the Bahamas, that'd be more of a foreign relations type of situation. And the counter argument to be that, I would say that they should have helped, but that contradicts the way they've approached any other situation. America's not actually the most likely to be proactive and jump in unless it affects them, and you've seen that in non-tragedies such as terrorist actions or war. So it's their actions are in line with what they're doing before, and if they were to change that, they'd have to it'd signify a change in the way America approaches their foreign relations.
Okay, so to wrap things up, this is our first podcast, and in the future, our topics that we're going to be discussing aren't only going to be focusing on natural disasters or things that are happening in terms of landscape. Geography is more than just the study of land. It's the study of humans. It's the study of populations. Maybe one day we're going to cover the geography of gun violence. Where is it most prevalent? We could talk about the Syrian crisis. There's all sorts of topics for us to discuss. Most of the world issues, from international violence to lack of basic necessities due to natural disasters, it all boils down to geography. And we hope with this podcast that we are able to take different things that are happening in the world, apply them to geography, and try to figure out solutions that we can do even in our own local community. Global problems start with geography, and global solutions are found within geography.